Always must do on magnesium crankcases is the head studs. Where the head studs will screw in, which is right here, and we have a single head stud. These threads are very prone to pulling out in service. So even if these threads are in good condition, it is a must-do to machine these out and install Time-Serts or case-saver studs. A Time-Sert insert is a piece of cast iron that has a thread machined on the outside and on the inside. The inside thread will match your fastener size, so in this case it's an M10 by 1.5. The technique to install is to drill out the damaged or old threads, then recut a new thread which matches the outside of the Time-Sert. The Time-Sert is then screwed into the magnesium housing with a special installer. The special installer has a taper to it, so as you screw it in, as the insert bottoms out, the installer will expand the insert out against the metal, therefore giving it 100% surface retention instead of relying on just the threads. Now, Time-Serts are used throughout the entire crankcase, not just the head stud. Even on our case surround bolts, anywhere where it needs thread repair. We can see that these studs here, these are the intermediate shaft retaining bolts. These have all been Time-Serted, and you can see where the Time-Sert is around the outside of the stud. That's because on the Time-Sert, it has a little tiny flange or lip. And as that is screwed in, it's counterbored below the surface. The Time-Sert will drop below the surface so it doesn't impede our sealing or mating surfaces. We're going to set this up in our mill and so that we can drill and tap for our Time-Serts. To install a Time-Sert is a three-step process. First, we're going to drill the old threads out. Normally, we would then use a counterbore. And what a counterbore does is allows for a spot for the head of the Time-Sert to sit. But because we're doing this for the cylinder head studs, we only need this part to clear the boss on the actual case. So it's okay if the Time-Sert sits up, but we want to make sure that it doesn't get stuck on the ring. So instead, I'm going to use a 1/2 inch end mill just to relieve the base gasket area. So I've set my mill and I've dialed in on my first hole. I've set my Z-stop so I know where the drill is at the top, and I've measured the depth of our hole. We have 31 millimeters available of depth, and our insert is 25 millimeters deep. So I need to drill deep enough to be able to tap down to make sure the Time-Sert goes all the way in the case, but not so deep that I need to re-drill the case again. Okay, we're just coming up on our depth right now, and I'm going to stop this right around 29 millimeters, which is going to give us plenty of room for our insert. Next, I'm just going to clear the chips from the hole. Now I'm going to switch from the drill to the tap. The next step after we've drilled our hole is to cut our threads. I'm going to lubricate my tap with cutting oil as well as the hole. And once again, I've set the depth of my tap so I know where the tap is in relationship to the hole bottom. So I'm going to cut this down to 28 millimeters deep to match my drill hole. I want to back it out and clean it so the tap doesn't get clogged up. And then I'm just going to wind it in nice and easy and creep up on my depth. All right, we're at 28 millimeters right now, so I'm going to back that out. We want to take it nice and easy when we're tapping and use plenty of oil. We want to make sure the thread is a nice clean thread. The last part of this step is we just want to relieve the cylinder base gasket area where the cylinder sits to make sure our insert can go past it without getting hung up. Normally I would counterbore before threading, but in this case, because we're just relieving it and the insert is going to sit on top of the case, we can do it after we've cut the threads. So I'm just going to bring it down. I've set my 0 so I know when I'm at the case, which I'm at right now. And that's it, only 23 more to do. After we finish machining the threads for our Time-Serts, the next step is to install the insert. We're going to use the installer, and the installer is a tapered thread that's going to expand the insert out against our new threads. So the first thing we're going to do is put a little bit of oil onto the installer, and this is because we want it to go through smoothly. I'm then going to screw in my insert onto the installer just until it stops. Now these can be installed dry. I like to use a little bit of blue Loctite. The blue Loctite, though I'm not really relying upon it to retain the thread, because the way the insert works and is expanded out, it's going to retain itself very well anyways. I'm more looking for it for its lubricating qualities. And I don't want to use oil because I don't want oil between the threads when they're expanded against the case. So I'm just going to go ahead and screw it in. The other thing that I'm using to make it easier, I could use a regular tap drive handle here, or I could use a crescent wrench. I have these sockets. These sockets are designed for driving taps. They're a square drive. They fit over, and then my 3/8 drive ratchet will drive it in. Just makes it easier to install. Then we're just going to unscrew the insert down. Once the insert has seated on the case, I'm just going to continue turning until my installer bottoms out. Now you can't see it, but the amount of force required has tripled on the ratchet. And that's because we're now expanding the insert out against the case. And once I bottom out, means my insert's on the bottom. Then I'm just going to back it out. And that's it. Our insert, we can see that it's below the height of the barrel. So when we put our barrel and the barrel shim on, it's not going to interfere with the insert. And it's hard up against the case. And that's it. 23 more to install.